Animals after death. 3 signs your pet came back, Cayce explains. Sometimes love doesn't end where life does. You might have felt it yourself. A soft brush of air against your leg when no one's there, a sudden familiar sound in the quiet of your home, or the feeling that your pet is still with you somehow. These moments make people stop and wonder, could love really be powerful enough to cross the veil between life and death? Edgar Cayce believed it could. He taught that nothing created through love is ever truly lost, because love is the vibration of God Himself. And when a soul, even that of an animal, is touched by pure love, that energy doesn't disappear. It returns, it lingers, it reminds you that life is eternal. If you've ever lost a pet, you know that ache that sits in your chest, that strange silence that replaces the sound of their paws or their purrs. But what if that silence isn't the end? What if those moments of peace are when their spirit is closest to you? Before we go further, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who misses their pet, and leave a comment about how you felt their presence. I'll mark every story with a heart. Cayce explained that animals have what he called a group soul. It means their consciousness isn't separate the way human souls are, but connected in a shared field of instinct, memory, and love. When a pet bonds with a human, that connection becomes so strong that a fragment of that shared soul starts resonating individually, guided by the love it received. It's why some people feel their dog or cat had a personality, emotions, even moral understanding. That bond, Cayce said, lifts the animal's spirit closer to human consciousness, closer to the image of God. In the book of Genesis, God gives Adam the power to name every living creature. That wasn't just about giving labels, it was a sacred act of connection. To name is to recognize life. To care is to reflect divine stewardship. When you love your pet, you're performing an echo of that first moment. You're acknowledging a spark of God's breath in that creature. And when the body dies, the spirit responds to love's memory. It can return not in a ghostly sense, but through vibration, energy, and signs that echo the language of the heart. The first sign, Cayce said, often appears in the form of sensation, a warmth, a soft weight at your feet, a presence where they used to rest. These aren't illusions. Energy never dies, it transforms. The comfort you feel might be their essence, responding to your longing. The human mind, when softened by grief and faith, becomes sensitive to what the eyes cannot see. Jesus once said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Maybe those who truly loved an animal with that childlike purity also become capable of sensing that unseen world. The veil between spirit and flesh is thinner when love is involved. Cayce said that's why certain homes feel alive, even after the pet has gone, because the vibration of joy, loyalty, and trust hasn't left. It lingers as proof that death is only a doorway, not a wall. The second sign often comes through dreams. Cayce believed dreams are the bridge between the physical mind and the spiritual dimension. When you dream of your pet alive, happy, or simply looking at you with peace, it isn't your brain replaying memories. It's your subconscious visiting the realms where souls rest and communicate. In those moments, time doesn't exist. There's no past or future, only recognition. Many people have awakened in tears after such dreams, not of sadness but relief. It's because at that instant, their spirit felt the truth Cayce always repeated. The soul never dies, it changes form. God's creation is circular, not linear. The love you give returns to you, sometimes in the most unexpected ways, and when that dream comes, it's a divine permission to release the pain, to understand that your friend didn't vanish, only moved beyond your sight. The third sign, according to Cayce, is synchronicity, those divine coincidences that seem too personal to ignore. You may find a feather where your bird used to perch, hear a bark in the distance right as you think of your dog, or notice a shadow moving in the corner of your eye where your cat once played. Cayce described these experiences as the language of vibration. When a bond of love exists, the energy field shared between you and your pet doesn't vanish. It shifts into subtler dimensions and finds ways to remind you that the connection remains alive. Even the Bible reflects this truth in the words of Jesus. Not even a sparrow falls to the ground without the Father knowing. If God cares for every creature, then surely the love between you and your pet carries meaning in eternity. These moments of synchronicity aren't random. They are gentle whispers of God telling you that love is never wasted. Sometimes those signs come through new life. Many people who have lost pets later find another animal with an uncanny resemblance. The same look in the eyes, the same habits, the same affection. Cayce taught that while animals don't reincarnate the way humans do, the vibration of love can attract a similar soul group to return into your life, guided by divine harmony. That's why it feels familiar, as if your old friend somehow found a way back. He explained that souls, even animal souls, are drawn to where they're loved, because love is the strongest energy in the universe. When you welcome that new companion, you're continuing a spiritual dialogue that began long before this lifetime. You're not replacing your pet. You're recognizing how God works through continuity, not endings. When Jesus spoke about the Good Shepherd, he wasn't only talking about people. He said, "I know my sheep, and my sheep know me." The metaphor extends beyond humanity. It reminds us that divine care flows to all living beings. To care for a creature is to practice the same love Christ showed to humanity, a love that sees no division between species, only the shared breath of the Creator. Cayce emphasized that through compassion toward animals, humans learn empathy, humility, and spiritual growth. Every act of kindness toward them refines your soul's vibration closer to God's frequency. So when your pet visits you through signs, sensations, or dreams, it's not just their spirit comforting you. It's also God using that love to remind you that heaven is not somewhere far away. It begins wherever love remains alive. If you've ever doubted whether your pet still feels your love, remember this. Love is the only force that bridges every realm. Cayce believed that the spiritual and physical worlds are layered, like waves in the same ocean. Your prayers, your tears, and your gratitude ripple across those layers, and your pet feels them as light, warmth, and peace. Even now, that connection continues. So talk to them, thank them, bless them in your prayers. It's not imagination, it's communication through the soul's language. Just as Christ said that not even death can separate us from God's love, nothing can erase the bond that was formed in purity. If this message brought comfort to your heart, take a moment to like this video and share it so others can feel that same hope. Leave a comment about how you felt your pet's presence. I'll read and heart every one of them. Your story might heal someone who still cries at night for their lost friend. Cayce often reminded people that the spirit world is not a place of shadows or silence. It's a realm of vibration, color, and light. He described it as layers of consciousness, each one closer to the source of divine energy. Within those layers, every soul, human or animal, finds its rightful frequency. When a pet dies, its spirit rises gently through those layers, guided by the energy of love that you gave it while it was alive. Cayce explained that animals feel and respond to that love, just as humans respond to faith. The stronger the love, the higher that soul can move. So in truth, you are helping your pet ascend each time you remember them with gratitude rather than sorrow. Grief anchors the soul to sadness, but love releases it into light. This is why prayer is powerful. It transforms pain into peace for both the living and the departed. In God's design, love is never one-sided. It's an eternal exchange. Think of the parable of the lost sheep. Jesus said the shepherd left 99 in the open country to look for the one that was lost. That story wasn't just about people. It's about divine care for every living being. God does not abandon even the smallest of his creations. Cayce echoed that truth when he said that no act of love is ever wasted. Each time you rescued, fed, or comforted your pet, you contributed to its spiritual evolution. That's why the bond feels sacred. Because it is. It's a reflection of God's own love, expressed through you. When you feel your pet near, it's not a haunting, it's a blessing, a reminder that heaven is closer than you think. Heaven isn't only for human souls, it's the home of everything born out of love. Cayce also said that animals help prepare the human soul for greater compassion. They teach loyalty without condition, presence without judgment, and forgiveness without effort. When they leave, it's as if a part of your heart gets torn open. But that wound becomes the space where divine understanding enters. Through that loss, many people discover empathy not only for animals, but for all creation. It's the same awareness Jesus showed when he said that the meek shall inherit the earth. Meekness isn't weakness, it's spiritual strength born from gentleness. Those who truly love animals are among the meek, because they recognize God's fingerprints in the smallest of beings. Your pet's spirit, Cayce taught, continues to grow. It may one day return in a new form, in a different body, or through another creature drawn by your same vibration of love. When you meet that new friend and feel something strangely familiar, don't dismiss it as coincidence. In God's world, there are no accidents, only connections. That moment may be the continuation of an eternal story between your soul and theirs. And one day, when your own time comes to cross the veil, that familiar presence will be waiting for you, not as an echo, but as light, whole, joyful, and free. Before we continue, if these words are touching your heart, subscribe and join this community. Here we explore the deeper truth Cayce revealed, that every form of love, human or animal, is a thread in the divine fabric of creation. Like this video and share it with someone who needs to believe that their beloved pet still lives in God's care. Cayce once said that heaven is not somewhere you go, but something you awaken to. When your heart is full of love, you're already standing at its threshold. That means the connection between you and your pet doesn't need to wait for death to be real again. It continues now, in every moment you remember them with kindness. God designed creation as a continuous stream of energy, not a chain that breaks. So when that furry companion touched your life, you were experiencing a divine appointment, a lesson in love, wearing 4 legs and fur. Each animal that enters your path is a messenger, teaching something about faith, patience, and unconditional affection. Jesus often spoke about the simple things of nature, the birds of the sky, the lilies of the field, because through them, he reminded us that God's care extends to all life. Your pet was one of those reminders in motion, proof that love can be innocent, constant, and pure. Many people fear that when they lose a pet, they'll never see them again. But Cayce's readings bring a comforting answer. In the spiritual realms, energy recognizes energy. When two beings have shared a vibration of love, they can find each other again through that same frequency. That means your pet's spirit still recognizes you. When you pray for them, they feel it as warmth. When you smile remembering them, they feel it as light. This is how heaven communicates, through emotion elevated to spirit. The love you gave them on earth becomes the bridge you'll both cross someday. And perhaps that's what Jesus meant when he said, "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Your treasure, your heart, your love, they remain connected beyond this world. Cayce also believes that animals serve as reflections of divine order, showing humans how to return to harmony. They don't question their purpose, they simply live it. They love without agenda, trust without demand, forgive without hesitation. If we could live even a fraction of that purity, Cayce said, humanity would heal its soul. So when your pet sends signs, through dreams, sensations, or synchronicities, it's not only to comfort you, but to remind you of that lesson. Love without fear, serve without pride, and stay faithful to what is good. The greatest way to honor your pet isn't through tears, but through transformation, by becoming a vessel of the same unconditional love they once gave you so freely. In the quiet of prayer, imagine your pet resting in fields of light, running joyfully free from pain. That vision isn't fantasy, it's a glimpse of truth. Cayce described heaven as layers of beauty shaped by consciousness, and the souls of animals dwell there in peace, near the spirits of those who love them most. They are cared for, guided, and protected until all souls, human and animal alike, return to the source. So take heart. Nothing God creates is ever truly lost. In the same way a wave returns to the sea, every life returns to the heart of the Creator. And when your time comes to step through that same veil, the love you once gave will be waiting, wagging its tail, glowing in joy, whispering that it never left you. It only went ahead to prepare the way. So if tonight you find yourself missing that familiar sound, the pause on the floor, the soft breath at your side, pause for a moment. Close your eyes and say, "Thank you, God, for the love you allowed me to know." That prayer alone bridges worlds. Cayce explained that every sincere thought becomes light in the spiritual plane, and those lights are felt by the souls we've loved. That's why sometimes in the stillness you feel peace wash over you, as if invisible arms or paws wrapped around your heart. That's not imagination. It's grace. God's way of reminding you that separation is temporary, but love is forever. Christ himself proved that truth when he returned after death, not as a distant spirit, but as living love. The resurrection was the divine promise that nothing truly dies, everything transforms. Your pet's presence in your life was never a coincidence. It was a small reflection of that resurrection power, a daily reminder of loyalty, joy, and devotion. Every time they greeted you, they mirrored how the soul longs for God, with excitement, trust, and surrender. And when they left this world, it was not an end but an evolution. Cayce said that death is simply a change in vibration, like shifting from one key to another in the same divine song. That song continues in the spiritual world, and you are still part of it. So the next time you sense them near, don't doubt it. Whisper their name, offer a smile, and know that your love was powerful enough to echo across eternity. Maybe one day, in God's timing, you'll see them again. Not as a ghost, but as light alive with recognition. And in that reunion, you'll understand what Cayce and Christ both tried to tell us, that all creation moves toward reunion, not loss. The entire universe is built on return. Every heartbeat, every sunrise, every tear that turns into gratitude is proof of it. So let your heart rest. Heaven holds your pet in the same arms that hold you now. And the day you step into that light, they'll be there, running, flying, glowing, with the same unbreakable joy they once brought into your home. If this message touched your spirit, leave a comment below about how your pet changed your life. I'll read each one and leave a heart as a sign of love shared. Like this video if it brought you peace, and share it with someone who needs to hear that love never dies. Remember, the soul of every creature returns to the source, and through love we all meet again. That's God's promise, sealed through Christ, revealed through Cayce, and alive in the memory of every pet that ever loved you. In 1933, a Protestant woman sat nervously in Edgar Cayce's Virginia Beach study, asking questions about her past lives during a documented psychic reading. After learning about her connections to family members through previous incarnations, she hesitated, then asked something that would shock everyone in the room. "What about my little dog, Mona? Was I associated with her in past lives too?" Cayce's unconscious response was immediate and startling. Yes, in the Roman experience. But when the woman pressed further, asking was she a dog then, Cayce's answer would challenge everything people believed about animals and souls. "A lion," he declared emphatically. This tiny family pet had been a fierce lioness in ancient Rome, connected to this same family across centuries. If you've ever wondered whether your beloved pet has a soul that transcends death, hit that subscribe button right now, because Edgar Cayce's documented readings reveal shocking truths about animal consciousness that will transform how you see your furry family members forever. This wasn't just one isolated case. Over the next 8 months, multiple family members received readings about Mona, creating one of the most documented cases of animal reincarnation in Cayce's 14306 archived readings. But the revelations about pets and souls go far deeper than most people realize. I'm about to reveal 3 mind-bending discoveries from Cayce's documented readings that answer the burning question every pet owner has asked. Do our beloved animals have souls? Do they survive death? And will we see them again? In the next few minutes, you'll discover the shocking difference between human souls and animal souls, documented cases of pets reincarnating with their families, and the spiritual reason why that bond you feel with your pet is more profound than you ever imagined. But first, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever looked into your pet's eyes and felt like there was an ancient, knowing soul looking back at you? According to Edgar Cayce's readings, that intuition might be more accurate than you think. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, gave over 14,000 documented psychic readings while unconscious, and his insights about animals and souls offer hope to every pet owner who's wondered about their companion's spiritual nature. But his answer to whether pets have souls isn't what most people expect. Here's what Cayce revealed that changes everything about animal consciousness. Animals do have a spiritual nature, but it's fundamentally different from human souls. According to documented reading 909-1, the will is that factor which makes man different from the rest of the animal kingdom. While humans possess what Cayce called individual souls with free will, animals operate through what he termed the group mind or group soul. But wait, this doesn't mean animals are less spiritual. In fact, Cayce's readings suggest they might be more naturally connected to divine consciousness than humans are. Think of it this way. While humans struggle with free will and often choose actions that go against divine love, animals always act in accordance with what Cayce called the creative forces. They live in pure innocence, guided by divine instinct, rather than conflicted by moral choices. As one researcher of Cayce's work explained, animals are always in accord with the creative forces, unless influenced by human free will. This explains why your pet's love feels so pure and unconditional. They're naturally expressing divine love without the mental barriers that humans create. But here's where Cayce's teachings get absolutely fascinating. Animals not only survive death, they also reincarnate. And the documented case of Mona proves that our pets can actually travel with us through multiple lifetimes. In 3 separate readings, 268-3, 281 and 405-1, Cayce confirmed that little dog Mona was the reincarnation of a lioness from Roman times. But here's the part that will blow your mind. The same family members who loved this little dog in 1933 had encountered her fierce lioness incarnation during the Christian persecution era in ancient Rome. According to the husband's reading, as a lioness, Mona had fought with the entity, and with those that destroyed many that the entity was then seeking to aid. This sounds exactly like the brutal persecution of Christians in Roman amphitheaters, yet somehow this same spiritual being chose to return as a beloved family pet, to continue relationships with the same souls she had encountered centuries earlier. But the most remarkable revelation came when Cayce was asked if Mona would always be a dog. His answer, "That depends upon the environment and the surroundings. No." This suggests that animals can evolve their form of expression based on their spiritual growth and the needs of their soul group. Here's what this means for you and your pet. If you feel an inexplicably deep connection with your animal companion, Cayce's readings suggest you might be part of the same soul group, traveling together through lifetimes to help each other grow spiritually. In documented reading 276-6, a 16-year-old girl was told that her current pet had been with her in an Egyptian incarnation. This isn't coincidence, it's spiritual partnership spanning centuries. The implications are staggering. That rescue dog who chose you at the shelter might have been seeking you across lifetimes. That cat who showed up at your door might be fulfilling an ancient soul agreement. The intense grief you feel when a pet passes might be the recognition of losing a spiritual companion you've known for centuries. But wait until you hear what Cayce revealed about the spiritual purpose of our relationships with animals. According to Cayce's readings, pets serve as spiritual teachers, showing humans how to express unconditional love, live in the present moment, and maintain connection with divine consciousness. While humans struggle with ego, judgment, and fear, animals naturally embody the spiritual qualities we're trying to develop. Dr. Doug Knuven, a holistic veterinarian who has studied Cayce's work extensively, explains that all living beings have in common the same life force or spirit, animals and humans. The readings suggest that according to Cayce, individuals do not meet by chance. There is always an opportunity for soul development linked to every relationship we have, and this includes our relationships with animals. This means your pet isn't just a companion, they're a spiritual partner, helping you learn patience, compassion, responsibility, and unconditional love. Every interaction is an opportunity for soul growth. But here's something that will completely change how you see your pet's behavior. Because animals operate through the group mind and remain connected to divine consciousness, they often serve as intuitive messengers and healers for their human families. And this leads to one of the most mind-blowing aspects of Cayce's animal teachings that modern science is only beginning to understand. Have you ever noticed how your dog seems to know exactly when you need comfort? How your cat appears out of nowhere during your darkest moments? How your pet's behavior changes before you even realize you're getting sick? Cayce's readings suggest this isn't coincidence. It's spiritual service. Animals retain their connection to what he called the creative forces, while humans often lose this connection through overthinking and ego-driven choices. Your pet is literally operating from a higher spiritual frequency, which is why they can sense things that escape your conscious awareness. In modern terms, we're discovering that pets can detect changes in their owner's biochemistry, electromagnetic fields, and even predict medical events like seizures or heart attacks. But Cayce's readings from nearly a century ago suggested that this ability comes from their maintained connection to universal consciousness. Here's what this means for the incredible bond you feel with your pet. You're not just imagining that spiritual connection. According to Cayce's documented teachings, your animal companion is actively serving as a bridge between you and divine consciousness, helping you remember what unconditional love feels like. Cayce's readings acknowledge that pets have individual personalities within their species group mind. Your dog's unique quirks, your cat's distinct personality. These aren't just genetic variations. According to Cayce's teachings, each animal expresses individuality while remaining connected to their species' collective spiritual consciousness. This explains why some pets seem almost telepathically connected to their owner's emotions, why they often appear at exactly the right moment during emotional crises, and why they seem to know things they shouldn't logically know. Many pet owners report that their animals seem to know when they're sick, sad, or stressed. According to Cayce's framework, this isn't just keen observation. It's spiritual sensitivity that comes from remaining connected to divine consciousness and the group mind. Now here's the question every pet owner desperately wants answered. Will I see my beloved pet again after death? Based on Cayce's documented readings about animal reincarnation and soul groups, the answer appears to be a resounding yes, but perhaps not in the way you expect. Cayce's readings suggest that the spiritual bonds we form with our pets transcend physical death. Just as human souls choose to incarnate together in different relationships across lifetimes, animals who are part of our soul group may choose to return to us in new forms. The researcher who studied Cayce's animal readings, Jenny E. Taylor, beautifully describes this possibility. Just as I can imagine human souls hovering over parents, deciding upon their re-entry, looking for that opportunity to once again bring spirit into the earth, I now have an image of our animals doing the same thing. This means that beloved pet who passed away might return as a new puppy, kitten, or even a different species, carrying the same spiritual essence, but in a form appropriate for your current life circumstances and spiritual needs. But here's where this gets absolutely incredible. And I need you to really pay attention, because this next part could completely transform how you understand pet loss and the animals that come into your life afterward. Dr. Doug Newven, who has spent decades applying Cayce's principles in veterinary practice, shares documented cases of pets who seem to carry specific behavioral traits, preferences, or even physical markings that mirror beloved animals who had passed away. While science calls this coincidence, Cayce's framework suggests something far more profound. Consider this. Have you ever met a new pet and immediately felt like you'd known them forever? Have you adopted an animal who seemed to already know your routines, your favorite spots in the house, or even responded to names they'd never heard before? According to Cayce's teachings about soul groups and animal reincarnation, these could be signs of spiritual recognition. One of the most compelling aspects of animal reincarnation that Cayce revealed is that the same spiritual essence can choose different forms based on what their human soul group needs for spiritual growth. That means your departed German Shepherd might return as a rescue cat if what you need to learn now is patience and gentleness rather than protection and loyalty. But the recognition signs go deeper than behavior. Many pet owners report inexplicable synchronicities around timing, finding a new pet on meaningful dates or having animals appear in their lives exactly when they're ready to love again. Cayce's readings suggest these aren't accidents, but carefully orchestrated spiritual reunions. There's even more evidence in what Cayce called soul recognition between pets and their humans. Some people describe looking into a new pet's eyes and feeling an overwhelming sense of welcome home, as if the animal is saying, "I found you again." According to Cayce's framework, this instant recognition might be soul memory activating across lifetimes, but recognition might come through spiritual connection rather than physical similarity. You might meet a new animal and feel that inexplicable sense of coming home, the same feeling you had with your previous pet. Here's what's even more remarkable. When a young boy asked if they could get a life reading for Mona the dog, Cayce said it could be done, but no one would understand it unless they learned dog language, clearly implying that animals have their own complex spiritual experiences and even forms of communication that humans don't fully comprehend. This suggests that our pets have rich inner lives, spiritual purposes, and soul experiences that we're only beginning to understand. So what does this mean for how you should treat your pet right now? According to Cayce's teachings, acknowledging the spiritual nature of your animal companion enhances both their well-being and yours. Holistic veterinarians who apply Cayce's principles report that recognizing the deeper levels of animal existence leads to a more complete healing attitude. This means treating your pet not just as a biological organism, but as a spiritual being deserving of respect, love, and recognition for their soul qualities. Talk to your pet with the awareness that you're communicating with a spiritual being. Many pet owners who embrace this perspective report deeper bonds and even improved behavior and health in their animals. Consider that your pet's challenges might be opportunities for both of you to grow spiritually. That anxious rescue dog might be teaching you patience and healing old trauma. That independent cat might be showing you how to respect boundaries while maintaining love. Meditation and prayer that includes your pet can strengthen your spiritual bond. Many pet owners find that including their animals in spiritual practices creates a sense of sacred connection and peace for both human and animal. But here's the most profound implication of Cayce's teachings about pet souls. They suggest that love itself is the binding force that transcends physical death and connects souls across lifetimes. The intense love you feel for your pet isn't just emotional attachment, it's spiritual recognition. Your pet's unconditional love for you isn't just instinct, it's divine love, expressing itself through their innocent, pure consciousness. This love doesn't end when their physical body dies. According to Cayce's readings, love is the eternal force that draws souls together across lifetimes, and the love between humans and animals is part of the same divine tapestry that connects all consciousness. When you lose a beloved pet, you're not losing them forever. You're experiencing a temporary separation while their soul continues its journey. The love you shared becomes part of your eternal spiritual record, and that bond may very well draw you together again in future lifetimes. But here's something that will give you immediate comfort if you're grieving a pet right now, or help you treasure the time you have with your current companion even more deeply. Cayce's readings suggest that the period immediately after a pet's death is often when the strongest spiritual communication occurs. While their physical form has ended, their consciousness, free from the limitations of their animal body, can actually connect with you more directly. Many pet owners report vivid dreams where their deceased pets appear healthy, young, and radiating a sense of peace and completion. Others describe feeling their pet's presence during quiet moments, sensing them jumping onto the bed or catching glimpses of familiar movements in peripheral vision. According to Cayce's understanding of consciousness, these experiences aren't grief-induced hallucinations. They're genuine spiritual communications from beings who want to reassure you that their love continues and that your bond transcends physical death. But there's an even more profound layer to this. Cayce taught that animals, because they remain pure and connected to divine consciousness, often become spiritual guides for their human families after death. They may help orchestrate the arrival of new pets when you're ready, or provide intuitive guidance during difficult decisions. Have you ever felt like your deceased pet was somehow guiding you to rescue a particular animal? Or sensed their approval when you brought a new companion home? Cayce's framework suggests these intuitions might be accurate spiritual communications, Some pet owners even report that new animals in their lives seem to know things about the deceased pet, favorite toys, special spots, or behavioral cues that they couldn't have learned naturally. According to Cayce's teachings about the group mind, this could be the previous pet's consciousness, sharing information through the collective animal awareness to help ease the transition. The most beautiful aspect of this spiritual continuity is that it means every pet who comes into your life, whether through careful selection or unexpected rescue, is part of your soul's journey. They're not random companions, but spiritual partners who have chosen to help you learn specific lessons about love, responsibility, healing, or joy. Some people report dreams or spiritual visitations from deceased pets. According to Cayce's framework, these aren't just wishful thinking. They could be genuine spiritual communication from beings who remain connected to you beyond physical death. The practical takeaway is profound. Treat every moment with your pet as sacred. Recognize that you're not just caring for an animal. You're nurturing a spiritual relationship that may span lifetimes. Express gratitude for their presence in your life. Many spiritual traditions teach that gratitude strengthens spiritual bonds and creates positive karma that can enhance future connections. Trust your intuitive connection with your pet. If you sense they're trying to communicate something important, pay attention. Cayce's readings suggest that animals retain stronger intuitive abilities than most humans, and your pet might be trying to share spiritual insights. Most importantly, let your pet's natural expression of unconditional love teach you how to love more purely yourself. According to Cayce, this is one of the primary spiritual gifts that animals offer humans. They model divine love in action. Edgar Cayce's documented readings reveal that the question, "Do pets have souls?" has a beautifully complex answer. While animals don't have individual souls with free will like humans, they possess a spiritual nature that's in many ways more pure and connected to divine consciousness than our own. They reincarnate, they travel with soul groups across lifetimes, and they serve as spiritual teachers and companions to help humans learn unconditional love and divine connection. The love you feel for your pet isn't just emotional. It's spiritual recognition of a being who shares the same divine life force that animates all creation. That bond transcends physical death and may very well reunite you across lifetimes in various forms. So the next time you look into your pet's eyes and feel that sense of ancient recognition, trust that intuition. You may be looking at a spiritual companion who has chosen to journey with you through multiple lifetimes, teaching you about love, loyalty, and connection to the divine. Your pet's soul might not be structured like yours, but it's no less sacred, no less eternal, and no less deserving of recognition as a spiritual being on its own journey of growth and service. If this exploration of Edgar Cayce's documented teachings about pets and souls has touched your heart or answered questions you've always wondered about, make sure you're subscribed for more insights into the spiritual connections that bind us all together. Hit that like button if you felt that soul-deep connection with a beloved pet. Share this with someone who needs to hear that love transcends death, and let me know in the comments. Have you ever felt like you've known your pet in a previous lifetime? Your spiritual bond might be deeper and more eternal than you ever imagined. The greatest revelation from Edgar Cayce's readings isn't just that pets have souls. It's that love itself is the immortal force that connects all conscious beings across time, space, and lifetimes, ensuring that no bond of genuine love is ever truly broken. Imagine a family losing their beloved dog after many years of faithful companionship. Through tears and silence, everyone feels an impossible void to fill. However, within a few days, one of the children dreams of him. They see him running again, happy, accompanied by a luminous presence. For many, this might seem like mere nostalgia, but according to Edgar Cayce's readings and spiritual insights, these experiences are not simple illusions. He affirmed in numerous readings that animals also possess souls, and after death they don't simply vanish into nothingness, but are protected and guided in the spiritual realm. In some cases, they even remain close to those who loved them on earth, comforting them in the first days of grief. This changes everything, because if faith assures us that love never dies, how could we think that God would abandon the beings who gave us such unconditional love? Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover about the destiny of dog souls can transform your understanding of life and death. And I want you to participate. Write in the comments if you've ever felt the presence of your pet after their passing, and I'll mark your comment with a little heart. When Edgar Cayce spoke about animals in the spiritual plane through his psychic readings, he made it clear that they too are part of the great universal family created by God. In his extensive collection of readings, particularly those dealing with the afterlife and soul progression, scenes appear where animals are not forgotten after death, but receive shelter and care. For many, this comes as a surprise, because it was always believed that only human beings had conscious continuity in the beyond. However, Cayce affirmed that animals possess what he called the soul pattern, a divine spark in evolution that also survives the moment of departure. The difference lies in the degree of consciousness. While humans have greater moral and spiritual responsibilities, animals live under the protection of simpler, yet equally sacred laws. In the first days after their transition, many dogs remain around their guardians, perceiving the bond of love that still unites them. This phenomenon has been reported in dreams, visions, and psychic experiences, where entire families claim to have felt once again the presence of their four-legged companion. Edgar Cayce described in his readings that in the spiritual dimensions there exist realms specifically designed for animal life. There, dogs, birds, and horses that have passed on are received and cared for by souls who serve as instructors and guardians of these kingdoms. This means that death does not destroy the essence of the animal, but opens a period of adaptation in another sphere. During the first days, some remain connected to the home where they lived, drawn by the affection that still circulates between them and their human guardians. Cayce explained that love is a real energy, a bond that is not broken by the grave, and that's why animals feel and respond to that call. This point is deeply comforting, because it shows that God could not have created bonds of such intense tenderness only to erase them in an instant. Faith is strengthened when we understand that these ties are part of the divine plan of evolution, both for human beings and for all other living creatures. In some of his most moving readings, Cayce transmitted messages in which souls who had crossed over mentioned with joy reuniting with family animals in the spiritual world. These were testimonies that deeply moved people because they revealed that dogs and cats continued to exist in some way, sharing this new stage of life. There isn't an exact detail in his readings about how many days they remain with us, but there is certainty that during an initial period they continue connected until they are lovingly led to places of rest and learning in the spiritual plane. The purpose of those first days is transitional, both for the animal and for the family. For the guardians, it's a time when memories mix with sensations of nearness. For the animals, it's the opportunity to be sheltered without violent ruptures. That's why many report having felt their dog's presence lying at the foot of the bed or hearing their footsteps in the house shortly after their departure. All of this was explained by Cayce within a larger framework of teaching. The universe is one, and evolution excludes no creature. In his readings on soul development, Cayce commented that animals follow a progressive path, always guided by higher intelligences that care for them. This vision completely changes the way we understand the death of our dogs. It's no longer a definitive ending, but another stage within a continuous process. When an animal dies, what occurs is a release from their physical body, similar to that of humans, though with less spiritual complexity. This release is accompanied by benevolent forces that prevent prolonged suffering. What's most striking is knowing that in many cases, the guardian's love serves as a bridge, helping the animal feel safe and at peace. Prayer, affection, and gratitude are not lost. They are energies that reach the animal's spirit and propel them forward. In readings dealing with the transition process, Cayce also described scenes where benevolent souls take care of recently departed animals. Although the primary focus was often on human reincarnation processes, the notion clearly appears that all of nature is under divine protection. Edgar Cayce explained that animals are like younger siblings in the scale of creation, and that human beings have the mission to care for and protect them. This care doesn't end at death, because the same love that accompanied them on earth projects into the spiritual world. In the first days after departure, many dogs experience a kind of affective continuity. They seek out the spaces of the home, approach the places where they used to be with their guardians, and perceive in their own way the sadness and prayers of the family. Although they don't understand everything with clarity, they feel the bond of love that unites them, and this gives them tranquility to move forward to the new stage. In various readings, Cayce was asked whether animals would reunite with their guardians in the beyond. His response was always consistent. Yes, these reunions exist, although on a different plane than human relationships. Animals have a less individualized spiritual life, but they don't cease to feel because of this. This affirmation was received with relief by thousands of people who were mourning the loss of their dogs. Knowing that their faithful companion hadn't disappeared into nothingness, but continued living under divine protection, transformed pain into hope. During the first days, according to Cayce's explanations, spirits of light allow animals to remain close to their homes so that the separation process is gentler. Then they are conducted to places of rest where they receive assistance. These places were described in Cayce's readings as organized communities, where life flows with order and harmony, and where animals fulfill a function within the spiritual balance. A moving example is found in Cayce's readings for families who had lost children, where these children appeared in the spiritual realm accompanied by their dogs. This detail impressed families deeply because it demonstrated that the bond of love extended beyond the grave. Animals, in their purity and loyalty, become symbols of continuity and hope. This doesn't mean that all animals remain indefinitely with their guardians, but that in the first moments, when pain is most intense, many of them draw near as if wishing to console. Cayce said that God would not let sincere love become eternal suffering. For this reason, he permitted these spiritual encounters as a form of comfort. This teaching generates an inevitable question. If love is eternal, won't the bond we form with animals who marked our lives also be eternal? In readings dealing with life continuation, Cayce reinforced the idea that life after death is not a human privilege, but a universal law. Animals participate in this same cycle, though in a simpler way. When a dog dies, what occurs is a passage toward a level of existence adapted to their nature. In the first days, according to what the readings relate, they are not alone. Protective spirits surround and guide them. Many guardians in their prayers ask God to care for their pet. And Cayce confirmed that these prayers were heard because divine mercy excludes no creature. Here is the key of the message. What we do with love is never lost. The affection offered to a dog, the gratitude we feel for their company, and the sincere sadness at the moment of their departure are forces that transform into spiritual bridges. Thus, the first days after the animal's death are not of solitude, but of approach and comfort. In Edgar Cayce's teachings, the idea of love as a universal language that transcends barriers appears with great force. When a dog dies, that love doesn't cease. In the first days after departure, many guardians report experiences of feeling their pet's presence, whether in dreams or in moments of prayer. Cayce confirmed that these perceptions were not imaginations, but real contacts on the spiritual plane. These brief encounters have a clear purpose: to soften the pain of separation and transmit the certainty that life continues. In his messages, Cayce always insisted that sincere prayer opens doors in the spiritual world. Therefore, when remembering a deceased dog with gratitude and tenderness, the guardian connects with them in an invisible way, and this vibration acts as a bridge between both worlds. During the first days, this connection is even more intense, because the animal's spirit is still in the process of adaptation. Cayce showed in his readings how spiritual life is dynamic and organized, and although the focus was often on humans, it's clear that animals also participate in this greater structure. He described that specialized souls work on different fronts. Some dedicate themselves to medical assistance, others to sheltering the recently departed, and there are also those who care for animals. In those first days, the main task is to ensure that the dog's spirit doesn't get lost in the confusion of release. Just as human beings need guidance when leaving the body, animals also require accompaniment, though on a different scale. Divine goodness ensures that nothing in creation is left abandoned. This vision opens the eyes of believers and provokes profound reflection. If God cares for each creature, how could we doubt that He also watches over the destiny of dogs who gave us unconditional love on earth? The impact of these teachings is reflected in the lives of those who heard them directly from Cayce's readings. People who had lost their dogs came seeking comfort, and Cayce's readings always responded with humility and tenderness, assuring that the love they had shared had not disappeared. The readings told that in the spiritual plane, animals are welcomed in institutions prepared for them, where they receive care and continue their development. For the family, this certainty changed mourning into hope, knowing that the first days after death were not of suffering, but of divine shelter, strengthened faith and renewed confidence in God's justice. Thus, the memory of the dog went from being a cause of pain to becoming a source of spiritual inspiration, living proof that love is immortal. Another fundamental teaching transmitted by Cayce is that bonds of affection are respected by higher spirituality. The first days after a dog's death are a time when this bond manifests with intensity. The guardian feels the absence, but also experiences signs, the sensation of companionship, vivid memory, even the echo of a bark in the empty house. Although materialistic science doesn't recognize these experiences, spiritual doctrine validates them as real. Cayce said that love is the key to everything, and that God wouldn't create such profound feeling between humans and animals in vain. The first days, then, function as a transitional period in which both sides say goodbye without losing connection. With time, the dog advances in their evolutionary process, but the memory of their love remains forever engraved in the family's spiritual history. In readings about spiritual dimensions, Cayce commented that spiritual life is governed by laws of balance and justice that don't leave aside any creature. This vision allows us to understand that the first days after a dog's death form part of a loving process, not abandonment. Guardians feel an immense void, but often also perceive small signs, a comforting dream, a sensation of warmth in the place where the animal used to lie, even the impression of hearing them move in the house. Edgar Cayce never treated these experiences as fantasies. On the contrary, he recognized them as real manifestations of spiritual proximity. In his words, love is a bridge that connects dimensions, and therefore, in the initial days after departure, the dog is still near, responding to that affective bond. This understanding completely changes the way of facing grief. It's not a definitive goodbye, but a gradual farewell, in which family and animal continue linked by love and prayer. Cayce also explained that departed animals are guided by souls responsible for their collective evolution. During the first days, these protective souls closely accompany the dog, ensuring the transition is smooth. There is no eternal suffering or condemnation, because animals don't carry moral guilt like humans. What they experience is a kind of rest and welcome, in which they're allowed to be near their guardians for a time until they manage to adapt to the new plane. This teaching brings comfort because it shows that divine goodness is infinite and reaches all forms of life. For those who deeply loved their dogs, knowing they are received with tenderness in the spiritual world is confirmation that love is never lost. It's also a call to reflect. If God cares so carefully for animals, shouldn't we respect them more in our daily life? In Cayce's readings, the idea of continuity is repeated. Life doesn't stop, it only changes scenery. In the first days after death, the dog still feels connected to the physical environment, as if seeking to understand what happened. The guardians, for their part, remember them intensely, which strengthens this bond. It's a transitional period in which both worlds touch. Then, little by little, the animal is conducted to places of rest, where they continue their existence under the guidance of souls dedicated to their evolution. Cayce affirmed that these processes were natural and that no one should fear for their pet's destiny. The same love that sustained them on earth accompanies them in the beyond. This message not only alleviates pain, but strengthens faith. It makes us see that death doesn't destroy what is true, but transforms and elevates it. The impact of these teachings is so profound that many families found in them a new way to face loss. Instead of resigning themselves to emptiness, they began to cultivate gratitude for the time shared and hope for reunion. Cayce used to say that love is the footprint we leave in the hearts of those around us, and that this footprint never disappears. The first days after a dog's death are, then, an opportunity to reaffirm this truth. Love remains alive, crosses dimensions, and becomes the strongest bond between heaven and earth. Reflecting on this not only consoles, but also invites us to live more consciously, valuing each instant with the beings we love. In various readings and spiritual communications through Cayce, it's reaffirmed that divine mercy is perfect, and that all creatures are sheltered at the moment of transition. For dogs, this care manifests in the first days with special closeness toward their guardians. Many testimonies recorded by Cayce narrate that dreams in which the pet appeared were not illusions, but real visits. These encounters had a profound purpose: to alleviate anguish, reinforce the certainty that the bond continued, and prepare both animal and family for gradual separation. Cayce insisted that sincere prayer has real power. When someone prays with gratitude for their deceased dog, this vibration reaches the animal's spirit and transmits peace. Thus, the first days after death are not of abandonment, but of mutual comfort, in which guardians send love and animals respond with spiritual presence. Another powerful teaching transmitted by Cayce is that animals, like humans, follow an evolutionary plan traced by God. The difference is that they live in a state of spiritual innocence, guided by higher intelligences. The first days after death mark the beginning of this transit toward more elevated levels of existence. In this time, they're allowed to remain with their guardians because human love acts as a balm that facilitates the transition. Later, they are conducted to spiritual communities where they receive care, companionship, and preparation for future steps in their evolution. This vision invites us to reflect on our responsibility toward them while they're on Earth. If the spiritual plane receives them with such affection, shouldn't we also treat them with more respect, dignity, and compassion in our daily life? In public readings and sessions, Cayce related cases that deeply moved audiences. People who had lost their dogs sought him with tears in their eyes, asking what had happened to their companion's soul. Cayce responded with serenity that animals didn't become extinct, but continued existing on another plane. He assured them that in the first days they still remained near, and that prayer and love were the bridge that kept them united. These responses awakened faith and renewed hope in those who suffered. Knowing that the dog hadn't disappeared into nothingness but was under God's care, transformed pain into comfort. This faith, nourished by the certainty that life continues, became a driving force to face grief with more serenity. Finally, Cayce always emphasized that true love is eternal. The first days after a dog's death are an opportunity to prove it in practice. Although physical eyes no longer see them, the heart feels them, and prayer reaches them. This is the great revelation. Spiritual life is not exclusive to human beings, but a divine gift extended to all creation. Therefore, when we remember our dog with gratitude, we are participating in this universal truth. The bonds of love we form on earth are seeds of eternity that bloom in heaven. This message, far from being a fantasy, is a call to faith and hope, reminding us that nothing done with love is ever lost. In the later years of his life, Edgar Cayce was approached countless times with questions about animal survival. His response was always coherent. God abandons none of his creatures. The first days after a dog's death are a transitional stage where divine mercy shows itself clearly. It's not a time of darkness, but of approach, spiritual companionship, and mutual comfort. Cayce pointed out that many guardians, in the midst of pain, received visits from their pets in dreams. These encounters were proof that the bond of love remained alive. Higher spirituality allows these experiences to soften departure and strengthen faith. And it's precisely in those first days when human love, expressed in sincere prayers, has the greatest effect on the animal's spirit, transmitting calm and confidence in the new path they begin. Spiritual doctrine, through Edgar Cayce's readings, teaches us that death is not the end, but a change of state. This includes animals who shared our life. The continuity of their existence is part of a greater plan of evolution. The first days are just the beginning of a journey in which they will receive care, companionship, and new opportunities. For guardians, understanding this transforms pain into hope. Knowing that the dog didn't become extinct in nothingness, but continues forward under divine protection, is a balm for the heart. This certainty awakens gratitude and reinforces faith in God's justice. It also invites us to live with more responsibility and love toward all beings, conscious that our acts have an echo in eternity. What's most moving is discovering that the bonds of love we form with our dogs are considered sacred on the spiritual plane. They don't break with death, but are elevated and strengthened. The first days after departure are a confirmation of this truth. We feel their presence, remember their gestures, perceive their affection as if they were still here. This experience is not illusion, but testimony that love is immortal. Edgar Cayce left us this legacy of hope, showing that life continues for all, even for animals. And by understanding this, the heart opens to deeper faith, capable of transforming the way we look at death and life. Therefore, if you've lost your dog and still remember them with tears, receive this message as a light. In the first days after their departure, they weren't alone. They were with you, responding to the love that united them to you. And now, they continue their path under divine protection, awaiting the moment of a greater reunion. Faith assures us that nothing of true love is lost, and that everything we gave and received is kept in eternity. Keep this hope alive, because spiritual life is more real than we imagine, and the love that unites hearts is the most powerful force in the universe. If this message touched your heart, I invite you to support this channel. Give this video a like, subscribe, and activate the bell so you don't miss new content. And share in the comments your experience or memory of your beloved dog. I'll read every comment and mark it with a little heart so you know I saw it. Your participation not only strengthens this community, but also honors the memory of those faithful companions who remain alive in God's love. What if the soul of your beloved pet was never truly gone? What if the bond you shared was so powerful, so deeply spiritual, that it could transcend death itself? Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, gave countless readings about the journey of the soul, and among them he revealed something that touches the very heart of those who have ever loved an animal. He spoke of the spiritual essence of pets, the energy that never dies, and the invisible ties that can bring them back to us across lifetimes. This is not a fantasy or a comforting story. These are insights taken directly from Cayce's work, insights that challenge everything we thought we knew about life, death, and the unbreakable connection between humans and animals. Today, you will discover how love, even in its simplest form between you and your pet, can be part of a larger divine design. Stay until the end, because this may change the way you look at your pet forever. And before we begin, I want to know, do you believe your pet's soul could find you again? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I will read each one and mark it with a heart, because every story matters here. Many people believe that when a beloved pet dies, it is the end of a beautiful but brief chapter. The grief is overwhelming, the silence in the house unbearable, and the absence almost too much to carry. Yet Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet, suggested that life in all its forms does not end with the physical body. He described existence as a cycle of growth, learning, and return. Just as he spoke of human souls evolving through lifetimes, he also hinted at the spiritual path of animals. He acknowledged that animals have souls in development and that their essence, like ours, belongs to the same divine source. When asked about pets, Cayce made it clear that the energy of love and the bonds formed do not vanish at death, but rather continue as part of an eternal pattern. This perspective changes everything, because it suggests that the animals we love may not only live on, but could also return to us in another form, drawn by the strength of the bond we once shared. Cayce explained that all souls, whether human or animal, are connected to the Creator and are part of a greater design. While human souls have a more advanced awareness, animals are on their own journey of spiritual growth. Pets, especially those who live closely with humans, often absorb emotions, energies, and vibrations from their caretakers. They learn to love, to trust, to serve, and in doing so they participate in the spiritual progress of creation. This is why, according to Cayce, a pet's presence is never random. The deep comfort you feel when your dog rests his head on your lap, or when your cat curls up next to you during times of sorrow, is not just instinct. It is the manifestation of a spiritual link that surpasses understanding. These bonds can become so strong that they may pull a pet's soul back into your life again. One of the remarkable things about Cayce's readings is that he often emphasized how thought and intention shape reality. He said, "Mind is the builder, and that which is held in the mind becomes the pattern." This principle applies not only to human destiny, but also to the energy connections with our pets. When you think of your beloved animal, when you grieve, when you love, you are sending out a vibration. That vibration interacts with the universal field of energy, and in ways we cannot fully comprehend, creates pathways that may allow the soul of that pet to return to you. Cayce did not present this as a fantasy or superstition, but as a natural extension of spiritual law. Just as love between humans can endure beyond death and reunite souls across lifetimes, so too can the love between humans and their pets. There are countless testimonies from people who believe their pet has come back to them. They recognize familiar behaviors in a new puppy or kitten, a way of looking at them, or a unique habit that feels uncannily the same as before. While Cayce did not catalog these cases in detail, his readings give us a framework to understand them. He said that energy and consciousness survive the body, and that like attracts like. This means that the intensity of your love, the purity of the bond, and the spiritual lessons shared could make it possible for your pet's soul to seek you again. It is not guaranteed, because each soul, whether human or animal, is part of a larger divine purpose. Yet the possibility is real, and it is rooted in the same spiritual laws that Cayce described over decades of work. Consider for a moment what this means for your own life. If you have ever lost a pet and felt that part of you went with them, Cayce's insights offer hope. He taught that separation is never final. Just as we may reunite with loved ones in future lives or in the spiritual realms, so too can the essence of our pets find its way back to us. This is why many people who deeply bond with animals describe an almost supernatural recognition when they meet a new one. It is as if the soul behind the eyes is the same, whispering, "I found you again." According to Cayce, this is not something to dismiss lightly. It is part of the mystery of creation, the demonstration that love is stronger than death and that spiritual connections are eternal. Now this brings us to a deeper question. Why does this happen? Why would a pet return to the same owner? Cayce often explained that experiences are not random. Every encounter, every relationship is an opportunity for growth, for learning, for love. When an animal and a human share an intense relationship of care, loyalty, and unconditional love, they both participate in spiritual evolution. The human learns compassion, patience, and responsibility, while the animal learns trust, devotion, and the vibration of love. This mutual exchange creates a spiritual contract, an invisible thread that may continue beyond a single lifetime. That is why, under certain conditions, the soul of a pet may be drawn back to the same person, because the lesson, the love, and the connection are not yet complete. Cayce also reminded us that death is never the end, but a transition. He described the afterlife as a realm where souls continue their journey, preparing for the next step in their evolution. Pets, though different in their level of awareness, also pass through this process. Their essence rests, heals, and prepares for new experiences. If the spiritual bond with a human was especially strong, it is possible that the pet may be drawn once again into that same circle of love. This perspective not only brings comfort, but also responsibility. It reminds us that the way we treat our pets has eternal significance. When we show kindness, when we nurture, when we love them sincerely, we are participating in something far greater than we realize. We are shaping spiritual connections that may last across lifetimes. For some, this idea may sound too mystical, too hard to accept, but Cayce always insisted that truth is revealed through experience. He did not ask people to blindly believe, but to observe, to live, and to see how spiritual laws manifest in their own lives. If you have ever felt that your pet's presence lingered after death, or that a new animal carried the same soul as one you lost, you may have touched this mystery yourself. Cayce's readings simply give us the language and framework to understand what our hearts have always known, that love never ends. When we look at Edgar Cayce's broader teachings, A key idea is that all of creation is interconnected. He often described the universe as one body, where every part, from the greatest galaxy to the smallest living being, has its role and purpose. In this view, the bond you share with your pet is not something small or trivial. It is part of that universal harmony, a piece of divine order. Pets may not speak with words, but their presence speaks to the soul. Cayce explained that energy never dies, it only changes form. If this principle is true for human souls, why would it not also apply to animals? The love between you and your pet is energy, and energy leaves an imprint that remains. That imprint can echo into future lives, drawing the same souls back together again. Cayce believed that the way we think, feel, and act creates patterns that shape our destiny. He often said, "Thoughts are things," reminding us that what we hold in our hearts becomes real in the spiritual dimensions. If you have ever felt that your pet was more than an animal, that they were a companion on a deeper level, then you have experienced what Cayce was talking about. That connection is not erased by physical death. Instead, it becomes a thread in the fabric of eternity, waiting to weave itself back into your life. This is why some people describe uncanny moments with new pets that remind them of one they lost. The tilt of a head, the way they look at you, or a specific behavior that seems too familiar to be coincidence. Cayce taught that there are no accidents. He said that life is guided by spiritual appointments, moments that are meant to be. When a new pet feels like a continuation of one who has passed, it may not be imagination. It may be the soul's way of finding you again. The idea of reincarnation is not always easy to accept, especially in relation to animals. Yet Cayce was clear. Life is eternal, and the soul's journey is far greater than we can imagine. For humans, reincarnation is a process of growth, learning, and spiritual development. For animals, it is simpler, but it exists within the same divine framework. He suggested that pets close to humans often advance spiritually because of the love they receive and the lessons they participate in. This makes them more likely to return because their growth is tied to yours. A dog or cat that shared deep loyalty and love may come back not because they need it, but because you both are meant to continue learning together. This is a profound idea, one that turns the grief of loss into hope and the mystery of life into a gift. Cayce also warned about the responsibility that comes with this knowledge. If animals are indeed on a spiritual journey connected to ours, then the way we treat them carries consequences. Every act of kindness elevates both souls. Every act of cruelty damages both souls. In this way, our pets are not just companions, but sacred responsibilities. Loving them, caring for them, and respecting them is part of our own spiritual growth. This perspective challenges us to look deeper at the relationships we often take for granted. It reminds us that the love we show to the smallest creature may echo into eternity. When you feed your dog, when you comfort your cat, when you protect them, you are participating in a divine cycle that may reunite you again and again. Another striking element in Cayce's teachings is the way he described the afterlife. He said that when the soul leaves the body, it enters a realm of preparation, a dimension where it rests, heals, and reviews its past life. Humans experience this with greater awareness, but animals also go through a similar transition. The soul of a pet, according to Cayce, is not lost. It continues in the spiritual world, connected to the divine source. If the bond with a human was strong, that connection may act like a magnet, drawing the pet back to the same person when the time is right. This does not happen with every pet, and not every soul is meant to return in the same way. But Cayce's reading suggests that love is never wasted. It always leaves a mark, and that mark can lead to reunion. Think of what this means for the grief you carry. Many people struggle after losing a pet, feeling that nothing can ever replace them. Cayce would agree that no two souls are exactly alike, yet he would also remind us that love creates eternal connections. The specific form may change, but the essence can return. If you have ever felt your pet's presence after death, through dreams, sensations, or sudden moments of memory, Cayce's insights tell you this is real. He often said that the spiritual world communicates with us in subtle ways, through impressions, dreams, and inner knowing. A visit from your pet in a dream or a sign that reminds you of them may be more than coincidence. It may be the soul reaching out, reminding you that love never ends. This is why Cayce's perspective on pets and reincarnation is so powerful. It does not dismiss grief, but it transforms it. It tells us that the love we gave and received is part of something greater, something eternal. It tells us that the bond between us and our pets may not be broken by death, but instead strengthened across lifetimes. It tells us that when you love a pet deeply, that love may bring them back to you again and again. For those who have felt this possibility, Cayce's words bring reassurance. For those who have never considered it, they open a door to a new way of seeing life, death, and the eternal journey of the soul. Edgar Cayce often highlighted that reincarnation is not a random process, but is guided by laws of spiritual harmony. He explained that souls return to complete unfinished lessons or to deepen bonds that serve growth. This applies not only to human relationships, but also to the profound connections we form with animals. When a pet becomes more than a companion, when they become a source of comfort, a healer of loneliness, or a silent teacher of unconditional love, the bond reaches a level of sacredness. According to Cayce, bonds created through genuine love are never broken. They may shift, evolve, or transform, but they endure. This opens the possibility that the pet who once walked by your side could walk with you again in another time, another body, continuing the eternal exchange of love and learning. It is important to remember that Cayce did not present these truths as sentimental ideas, but as spiritual realities discovered through his readings. He did not invent stories to make people feel better. Rather, he transmitted what he perceived in higher states of consciousness. For him, the universe was orderly and purposeful, where nothing was lost and everything carried meaning. When asked about pets, his answers revealed that animals are not excluded from this divine order. They too are part of the universal cycle, and their closeness to humans accelerates their spiritual growth. This means that a beloved pet may not only reincarnate, but may feel naturally drawn back to the person with whom they shared such love. Consider the comfort this perspective provides. Grief often leaves people feeling powerless, as though death has stolen something precious forever. But Cayce's insights suggest otherwise. They remind us that love is stronger than death, and that bonds may weave themselves back into our lives. This transforms the way we see loss. Instead of an ending, it becomes a transition, a pause in an eternal relationship. If you have ever looked into the eyes of a new pet and felt the unmistakable sense of recognition, Cayce's teachings help explain why. It is not fantasy, but the soul's quiet confirmation that the connection continues. Cayce also emphasized the role of desire and intention. He explained that the soul is drawn to where its deepest ties and energies belong. This means that the longing of a grieving heart, the love that never dies, can act as a beacon attracting the soul of a pet back into your life. This does not mean you can command it or force it, but rather that spiritual laws naturally respond to love's vibration. Just as like attracts like, the intensity of your bond may bring you together again. In this way, Cayce's readings invite us to see our relationships with pets not as chance encounters, but as divine appointments. Each animal that comes into your life may carry a purpose, and some may carry the soul of one who has already shared that journey with you before. There is also a lesson of responsibility here. If animals are part of our spiritual growth, then how we treat them becomes eternally significant. Cayce insisted that every thought, every action leaves a mark on the soul. When you nurture, protect, and cherish your pet, you are not only shaping their journey but also your own. You are weaving a pattern of love that extends beyond this life. When cruelty or neglect occurs, the harm is not just physical, but spiritual, creating imbalances that must be healed. This shows us that pets are not simply possessions, but sacred trusts. Each act of kindness toward them is an act of alignment with divine law. In this sense, pets become reflections of our own growth. They mirror our love, our patience, and sometimes even our shortcomings. By caring for them, we learn about ourselves. Cayce believed that such experiences are never wasted because they prepare us for higher levels of spiritual awareness. If a pet reincarnates into your life, it is not only because of love, but also because the journey of learning is not yet complete. Perhaps there are lessons of forgiveness, compassion, or devotion still to be lived out together. This deepens the meaning of reincarnation, turning it from a mystical idea into a practical part of life's purpose. When we bring this back to the everyday reality of loss and longing, the message becomes deeply personal. If you have lost a pet and felt their absence as a wound, Cayce's teachings invite you to see beyond the pain. They suggest that the soul of your pet is not lost to the void, but is continuing its journey, and may one day walk beside you again. This is not wishful thinking, but a reflection of the universal law that love binds souls together across time. It challenges us to hold on to faith, to trust that nothing given in love is ever wasted, and it encourages us to live each day with the awareness that our relationships with animals are eternal, sacred, and part of God's design. Cayce often spoke of how creation itself is layered, with visible and invisible dimensions constantly interacting. To him, the physical world was only one part of reality, while the unseen spiritual dimension held the true essence of life. Pets, like humans, exist within this layered reality. Their bodies are temporary, but their essence is eternal. When we lose them, it feels final only because our eyes cannot yet see the spiritual plane. Cayce encouraged people to look beyond appearances and to recognize that every soul, regardless of form, continues its journey. In this way, the death of a pet is not a loss of being, but a shift of presence from one dimension to another. That soul still exists, and under the right conditions may return to continue its bond with you. One of Cayce's key teachings was that souls are drawn to where love is strongest. He explained that love is a universal force, a vibration that connects us across lifetimes and dimensions. This is why certain people meet again and again across different incarnations, because the power of love acts like a magnet. The same principle can apply to pets. If the love between you and your pet was profound, if it shaped both of your lives, then it creates a spiritual magnetism that can pull the soul of that pet back to you. This is not guaranteed, but it is possible, because the universe responds to the deepest energies of the heart. Imagine for a moment what this means. If you have ever held your pet in your arms and whispered words of love as they passed away, those words may carry more power than you realize. They may become a thread that links you across realms, a promise that echoes into eternity. Cayce often spoke about the power of prayer and intention. He said that when directed with love and faith, they move beyond the mind into the very fabric of creation. In the same way you're longing for your pet, your hope to see them again may not be in vain. It may form part of the pathway by which their soul can return to you. At the same time, Cayce was careful to point out that reincarnation is not always immediate. Souls rest, learn, and prepare before returning. For pets, this may mean that they do not always come back right away, but in the timing that fits their journey and yours. This is why patience and trust are essential. If you meet a new animal and feel that strange, almost supernatural sense of familiarity, it could be the soul of your pet finding you again. But even if they do not return in this lifetime, Cayce's teachings assure us that the connection is never lost. In the greater reality of the spirit, reunion is inevitable because love cannot be destroyed. Cayce's words also carry a challenge to recognize the sacredness of every relationship with animals. If pets are part of our eternal journey, then they are far more than companions for our leisure. They are co-travelers in the soul's evolution. Each act of love toward them strengthens your own soul and theirs. Each moment of care becomes part of the eternal bond. Cayce insisted that spiritual law is exact. Nothing is lost and nothing is without consequence. To love a pet is to invest in eternity. To neglect or harm them is to harm yourself, because the bond is mutual and the lessons are shared. This places extraordinary value on the way we live with our pets, showing us that every interaction is part of a greater story. What makes Cayce's perspective so compelling is that it resonates with what many people already feel. Countless stories exist of people recognizing something of a lost pet in a new one. A dog that greets them in the exact same way, a cat that curls up on the same spot on the bed, or a unique behavior that cannot be explained by chance. These moments often leave people in awe, wondering if their beloved pet has returned. Cayce's teachings provide the framework to say yes, it is possible, and it may even be part of God's design. When love is genuine and pure, it becomes the strongest force in the universe, and it will always find a way to bring souls together again. This brings us to a final and very personal reflection. When you think of your pet, whether living or passed on, understand that the bond you share is eternal. Cayce would tell you that your love does not vanish, but becomes a thread in the vast tapestry of creation. If that bond is strong enough, it may draw your pet's soul back to you. If not in this lifetime, then in another. Either way, nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. The love you gave will always remain, and it will always return to you in some form. This is the promise of spiritual law, the assurance that life is continuous, and that love is the eternal bond that unites all souls, human and animal alike. Cayce also reminded people that the evidence of the soul's journey is often subtle. It comes not through dramatic signs, but through quiet recognition, inner knowing, and the resonance of the heart. If you have ever met a new pet and felt without reason that you already knew them, Cayce's framework suggests you may be recognizing the soul itself. These moments are deeply moving because they bypass logic and speak directly to spirit. They invite us to trust the reality of unseen connections. To Cayce, such recognition is not imagination, but alignment with truth. It is the soul remembering what the mind cannot fully explain. The idea that pets can reincarnate to find us again also expands our understanding of heaven and the afterlife. Many people ask if they will see their pets in heaven. Cayce's readings suggest that heaven is not a distant place, but a state of being, a spiritual dimension where souls exist and grow. In this dimension, the souls of pets continue, and the bonds of love remain intact. If reunion is part of the soul's growth, then it is assured. Sometimes that reunion may happen in the spiritual world, other times it may unfold through reincarnation in the physical world. Either way, the bond is never broken. For those who grieve, this teaching brings hope, because it means goodbye is never forever. Cayce often insisted that our experiences with animals are part of the same divine curriculum as our human relationships. They are opportunities for growth, compassion, and service. When a pet returns, it may not only be a comfort, but also an invitation to continue learning together. Perhaps there are lessons of patience, forgiveness, or loyalty that still need to unfold. In this way, reincarnation is not simply about reunion, but about progress. It is about love becoming deeper, wiser, and more enduring. It is about the human soul and the animal soul rising together toward the Creator. This vision changes the way we see everyday life. Each moment with a pet becomes sacred because it is part of eternity. The joy of a wagging tail, the comfort of a soft purr, the silent companionship during difficult times, all of these are pieces of a greater pattern. According to Cayce, nothing is wasted. Every act of love, no matter how small, contributes to the eternal journey. When you see your pet with these eyes, you realize that you are not just sharing a home or a life, but sharing eternity. And if that love is strong enough, if it resonates with the eternal laws of the soul, then your pet may indeed return to you again and again. This is why Cayce's teachings are not only about comfort, but also about responsibility. If pets are eternal companions in the soul's journey, then they deserve to be treated with reverence and love. They are not temporary distractions, but sacred bonds. To care for them is to care for your own soul. To honor them is to honor the Creator, who gave life to all beings. Cayce's readings remind us that the measure of our spirituality is not only in how we treat other humans, but in how we treat all of creation. In this sense, pets become teachers, showing us how to love selflessly, how to serve without expectation, and how to live with pure devotion. For those listening now, perhaps you feel a stirring in your heart. Perhaps you remember a pet you lost, or you see the eyes of your current companion in a new light. Let this message sink in. Your love is eternal, your bond is sacred, and nothing is lost. Edgar Cayce's insights reveal what your heart already knows, that love is stronger than death, and that even your pet's soul may find its way back to you. Hold on to this truth. Let it give you peace, let it give you hope, and let it deepen the way you love those who walk beside you now. Because one day in this life or the next, that love will return to you. Before we close, I want to invite you to reflect and share. Do you believe your pet's soul could return to you? Have you ever experienced a sign or a moment that made you wonder if they already have? Share your story in the comments. I will read each one and mark it with a heart, because every experience matters, and together we create a space of hope and faith. And if this message has touched you, if it has given you comfort or opened your eyes to a new truth, I ask you to support this channel. Like this video, subscribe and activate the notification bell so that we can continue exploring the wisdom of Edgar Cayce and the eternal mysteries of the soul. Your interaction helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. Stay with us, because the journey is not over. Love is eternal, and so is the bond between you and your pet. Right now, as you're listening to this, your cat might be staring at you with those mysterious eyes, seeing something you can't even imagine. They're not looking at your physical body. They're reading your soul like an open book, perceiving colors and energies that reveal your deepest secrets, your health, even glimpses of your past lives. This extraordinary revelation came through Edgar Cayce during one of his most startling readings, and it changes everything we thought we knew about our feline companions. The case that brought this to light was unlike anything in the Cayce archives. A wealthy socialite from New York had traveled to Virginia Beach with a peculiar problem that was driving her to desperation. Her prized Persian cat, Duchess, a champion show cat worth more than most people's annual salary during the Depression, had suddenly begun acting as if her owner was a stranger, or worse, a threat. For weeks, Duchess would no longer sleep in the same room, refuse to be petted, and most unnervingly would sit in doorways staring at her owner with an intensity that made the woman's skin crawl. "It's like she's trying to warn me about myself," the woman confided to Cayce before the reading began. When Cayce entered his trance state that afternoon, what emerged from his lips would forever change how we understand the consciousness that lies behind those enigmatic feline eyes. "The feline sees not flesh and bone," came Cayce's otherworldly voice, "but the emanation of the soul itself, colors that dance and swirl around the human form, telling the story of health, emotion, and spiritual evolution. To this creature, thou art a living aurora, a symphony of light that changes with every thought, every feeling, every beat of thy heart." The woman in the room felt a chill run down her spine. Her cat wasn't rejecting her. It was reading something written in the very fabric of her being. But what Cayce revealed next sent shockwaves through everyone present. The woman's elegant appearance was masking a serious heart condition that hadn't yet been diagnosed by any doctor. In her aura, Cayce explained, dark, churning patterns around her chest area were broadcasting the disease like a neon sign, invisible to humans, but impossible for Duchess to ignore. The colors shift from the natural golden white of health to deep crimson streaked with black when the heart struggles, Cayce continued. The feline sees this as clearly as you see the sunrise, and it disturbs their peace, for they are compelled by their nature to heal what they perceive as imbalance. The stenographer's pencil flew across the page as Cayce detailed something unprecedented in his thousands of readings. He began describing the actual mechanics of feline perception, how cats process what they see in human energy fields, and why their responses are so specific and consistent. The eyes of the cat are windows not just to their soul, but to realms beyond the physical. They possess what may be termed prismatic vision, the ability to separate the layers of energy that surround each human being into distinct bands of color and vibration. Where you see flesh, they perceive a living rainbow that tells the complete story of your existence. According to Cayce's reading, cats see approximately 7 distinct layers of what he called the human energy matrix. The first layer reveals immediate health. Cuts, bruises, infections appear as disruptions in what should be a smooth, consistent glow. The second layer reflects emotions. Anger burns red-orange, sadness appears as muddy blue, joy radiates golden yellow. The third shows mental activity. Active thinking creates sparkling patterns of white and silver. But it was the fourth layer that made everyone hold their breath. This level reveals what Cayce called soul intentions, the deeper motivations that drive human behavior. A person with genuine compassion radiates soft pink throughout this layer, while someone harboring malicious intent shows twisted patterns of dark green and brown. This is why cats immediately know who to trust and who to avoid, making judgments that prove accurate long before humans reach the same conclusions. The feline serves as sentinel, Cayce continued, alerting to disturbances in the body's energy patterns often months before symptoms manifest in the physical realm. But this is merely the beginning of their service to humanity. And here's where it gets truly mind-bending. Cayce revealed that cats actively work to heal these energy patterns through what he termed feline energy medicine. Every time your cat purrs against you, they're creating specific frequencies that help stabilize and repair damaged areas in your energy field. But cats don't purr at random frequencies. They instinctively adjust their purring to match the exact vibrational signature needed to heal whatever imbalance they detect. For heart problems, they purr at 25 Hz. For bone healing, they shift to 35-40 Hz. For emotional trauma, they create complex harmonic patterns that cycle through multiple frequencies during a single session. It's not coincidence that these frequencies align perfectly with medical research conducted decades after Cayce's reading, research showing these exact ranges promote healing and reduce inflammation. The second healing method involves what Cayce called energy absorption. When your cat positions itself on areas where you experience pain, they're literally drawing negative energy into their own system and neutralizing it. This is why cats often seem to take on their owner's illnesses. They're absorbing energetic imbalances before they manifest as physical symptoms. One documented case involved a man in Kentucky whose cat began sleeping exclusively on his lower back. Within weeks, the cat developed apparent kidney problems. A Cayce reading revealed the cat had been absorbing the early stages of kidney disease from its owner. The man sought immediate medical attention, and early treatment saved both his kidneys and his life. The cat recovered completely once the healing work was finished. The third healing method Cayce described involves auric cleansing through physical contact. Every gentle head bump, every kneading session, every moment when cats rub against your body, these aren't just displays of affection. According to Cayce, cats are methodically working to smooth out disruptions in your energy field. Much like master healers balancing chakras, their paws are especially sensitive to energy patterns, and their kneading motion helps redistribute stagnant energy throughout your entire system. The fourth method is etheric shielding. Cats naturally create protective energy barriers around their human families, particularly during sleep, when humans are most vulnerable to negative influences. This explains why many cat owners report better sleep quality and fewer nightmares when their cat sleeps in the bedroom. The cat literally stands guard in the energy realm, deflecting harmful vibrations and maintaining a sanctuary of peace around their human companions. This revelation made sense of countless mysterious behaviors. Why do cats gravitate towards sick family members? Why do they sleep on the exact spot where you have pain? According to Cayce, they're drawn to energetic disturbances like living medical detectors, compelled by their nature to heal whatever they perceive as wrong. During one particularly striking case, a family in Ohio found their cat sleeping exclusively in their 8-year-old son's room. The behavior became so intense that Rusty would block the doorway and refuse to leave even for meals. The parents initially thought it was sweet, until they noticed the cat losing weight from refusing to eat elsewhere. When Tommy began showing symptoms, excessive thirst, fatigue, unexplained weight loss, the diagnosis was devastating. Juvenile diabetes, often fatal in children during the 1930s. Through a Cayce reading, they discovered something extraordinary. Rusty had been detecting the energetic disruption of Tommy's changing blood chemistry for months before medical tests could identify the disease. The feline entity perceived the child's life force weakening, Cayce revealed, and responded with the full power of its healing consciousness. The weight loss occurred because the entity was channeling much of its own life energy into maintaining the child's vital functions during the critical period before human medical intervention could begin. Following Cayce's guidance, the family worked with both medical doctors and Rusty's natural healing abilities. Specific times were set for concentrated healing sessions between cat and child. Tommy not only survived, but thrived, living well into old age. Rusty recovered his strength once Tommy's condition stabilized with proper medical management. But perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of Cayce's revelations was what he called Cat's interdimensional sight, the ability to perceive not just current energy fields, but glimpses of past lives and karmic patterns. When the cat gazes upon thee with those ancient eyes, Cayce stated, it beholds not merely this life's experiences, but the soul's entire tapestry, thy victories and failures across the ages, the lessons learned and yet to learn, the debts of love that bind thee to this earthly plane. This explains why some cats immediately bond with certain people while remaining aloof from others, despite equal kindness from all. They're responding to soul recognition, identifying spirits they've known and loved in previous lifetimes, or sensing karmic obligations that transcend this current existence. The case that best illustrates this involved Margaret Thompson, a Virginia widow who claimed she wasn't a cat person. When a stray black and white cat appeared at her door during a storm, she reluctantly let him inside. Within hours, Shadow behaved as if he'd lived there forever, claiming her late husband's favorite chair and leading her to rooms she rarely visited. Through a Cayce reading, Margaret learned something extraordinary. Shadow had been her spiritual teacher in ancient Egypt, where they served together as priest and priestess in the Temple of Bast. The entity now known as Shadow was in the previous earthly experience the beloved companion of the entity Margaret, though in that lifetime the feline soul inhabited human form, Cayce revealed. Now the roles were reversed. The ancient teacher had returned in feline form to complete spiritual lessons interrupted 3,000 years ago. This explained Shadow's apparent familiarity with Margaret's house and his intensity during her meditation sessions. Following Cayce's guidance, Margaret began working with Shadow as her spiritual teacher, developing remarkable psychic abilities and even communication with her deceased husband. The transformation was profound. Shadow would guide Margaret to specific books in her library, all dealing with ancient Egyptian spirituality. He positioned himself in particular locations during meditation, and Margaret began experiencing spiritual insights and glimpses of their shared past life. Within months, she developed genuine psychic abilities, sensing when friends needed support, having prophetic dreams, and most remarkably, maintaining ongoing communication with her deceased husband during evening meditation sessions with Shadow present. When Shadow passed years later, Margaret reported continued contact from the spiritual realm. Our bond transcends physical existence, she wrote to the ARE. Shadow taught me that love creates eternal connections that death cannot break. Even now I feel his guidance during my deepest meditations, proof that consciousness truly is immortal. What makes these revelations extraordinary is how modern research validates them. Scientists have discovered that cats detect biochemical changes through scent, explaining their ability to sense illness. Studies show therapy cats consistently gravitate toward critical patients before medical staff realize the severity. Cat purr frequencies have been proven to accelerate healing and reduce pain, exactly as Cayce described decades earlier. Even more fascinating, cat owners show increased brain activity in areas associated with empathy and intuition. Daily exposure to feline consciousness seems to awaken dormant psychic faculties in humans, like a tuning fork, helping us remember our energetic nature. But here's what truly sets Cayce's insights apart. He revealed that cats serve as ambassadors from higher dimensional realms, who chose to incarnate specifically to assist humanity's spiritual evolution. The feline consciousness originates from planes where love and wisdom flow naturally, Cayce explained. These entities voluntarily lowered their vibration to incarnate because they perceived humanity needed guides who could demonstrate unconditional love while maintaining connection to higher spiritual truths. This reframes everything we think about cat domestication. According to Cayce, cats weren't domesticated by humans. They chose to partner with humanity as part of a cosmic plan to accelerate human spiritual development. Every cat sharing a human home fulfills a sacred mission, established before either species existed in physical form. This cosmic partnership explains the profound healing abilities cats demonstrate, their uncanny psychic sensitivity, and their role as spiritual teachers disguised as household pets. It also explains why cats have been revered as sacred beings in ancient cultures. These civilizations remembered truths about feline consciousness that modern humanity has largely forgotten. The student of higher consciousness, Cayce explained in a profound 1938 reading, would do well to observe the feline companion with the reverence due a master teacher. For in understanding how these entities perceive the true nature of reality, one may begin to develop similar sensitivities within oneself. The cat serves as a bridge between worlds, demonstrating daily that what you call supernatural is merely the natural operation of consciousness, freed from physical limitations. This teaching has profound implications for developing psychic abilities. Cayce recommended specific practices, spending time in quiet meditation with cats present, observing their responses to different people and situations, and developing the kind of unconditional, non-judgmental awareness that cats naturally embody. Some practitioners reported learning to temporarily experience reality from a cat's perspective, seeing human auras, sensing illness in others, and perceiving past life connections between souls. During World War II, Cayce explained that cats work collectively to maintain anchors of light during global crisis. When shadows threaten to overwhelm the light, he stated, the feline consciousness serves as a reservoir of pure love that cannot be corrupted. Each cat becomes a beacon, drawing healing energies from higher realms and distributing them throughout the human population. This explains why cat populations increase during human crises and why people feel overwhelming needs to care for cats during difficult times. It's coordinated spiritual response to humanity's need for healing and balance. Every person who opens their heart to a cat during dark periods participates in this planetary healing work, whether they realize it or not. One particularly moving example involved a London family during the Blitz. Their cat, Smokey, would somehow know which nights the air raids would be most severe, leading the family to the safest parts of their home hours before sirens sounded. Night after night, Smokey's guidance kept them alive when neighboring houses were destroyed. Through a Cayce reading conducted after the war, they learned that Smokey had been accessing what Cayce called probability streams, reading the energy patterns of future events to guide his family to safety. The woman with the Persian cat followed Cayce's advice immediately, seeking medical attention for the heart condition Duchess had detected. Early diagnosis saved her life, and her relationship with her cat transformed completely. Instead of seeing rejection, Margaret understood Duchess's behavior as the greatest gift of love, an early warning that allowed treatment before it was too late. When Duchess passed at 19, Margaret remained grateful. The cat had saved her life and opened her to entirely new understanding of consciousness and healing. In her final letter to the Association for Research and Enlightenment, she wrote, "Duchess taught me that love transcends all physical limitations. Even now I feel her presence during meditation, continuing to guide me from whatever realm she inhabits. Today, as you observe your own feline companion, remember that you're not just sharing your home with a pet. According to Edgar Cayce's extraordinary revelations, you're living with a being that sees the truth of who you are at the deepest level, your health, emotions, spiritual progress, and echoes of who you've been across lifetimes. That mysterious stare, that sudden purr, that inexplicable decision to sit in a particular spot, these aren't random behaviors. They're actions of consciousness that perceives dimensions of reality we're only beginning to understand. In your cat's eyes lies not just affection, but ancient wisdom about existence itself. The next time your cat gazes at you with those knowing eyes, remember, they're seeing your soul in living color, reading the story of your spirit like pages in an eternal book. And in their perfect acceptance of all they perceive, light and shadow, beauty and pain, they offer glimpses of unconditional love that transcends the physical world. Edgar Cayce's revelations remind us that we live in a universe far more mysterious and interconnected than our senses perceive. Through understanding how cats truly see us as radiant beings of light on an eternal journey of awakening, we begin to see ourselves and each other with the same depth, compassion, and spiritual insight that shines from those wise, eternal eyes. In learning to see ourselves as our cats see us, we take a giant step towards seeing all creation with eyes of love, and in that seeing, we find our way home to who we've always been beneath the illusions of separation and fear. Imagine hearing this. Your dog may see what you cannot hide. Those words sound mysterious, almost unsettling, yet they echo the very heart of what Edgar Cayce suggested in his readings about animals and their spiritual sensitivity. In one of his sessions during the Great Depression, a family from Hopkinsville asked why their dog seemed to sense moods, illnesses, even invisible presences in the house. Cayce explained while in trance that animals, especially dogs, live closer to the vibrations of the unseen world than humans do. They feel the essence of the soul, responding not to words, but to the truth of what we carry inside. This is why a dog may comfort you when you are silently hurting, or become restless when your thoughts are heavy. They are not guessing. They are perceiving. And if this discovery stirs something in you, take a moment now. Like this video, share it, and leave a comment telling us if you've ever seen your dog react to something invisible. I promise to heart every single comment. Subscribe if you want to dive deeper into Cayce's hidden teachings. Cayce's words didn't come from speculation. They came from readings preserved in the archives of the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. Again and again, he reminded seekers that animals are part of the same universal life force that sustains humanity. To him, a dog was more than a loyal companion. It was a living mirror of the unseen world, reflecting back the condition of the human spirit. He taught that when a dog barks at what looks like nothing, or refuses to approach a person without clear reason, they may actually be responding to spiritual energy, the kind we try to hide, but cannot. During the war years, several families came to Cayce troubled by strange animal behavior. His answer was consistent. They perceive what you do not. In other words, your dog may be revealing to you what lies beneath the surface of your own being. But here is where the story deepens. Cayce explained that the bond between humans and dogs was not random. In his reading style, he often connected present conditions with the eternal journey of the soul. He said that dogs could attune to their owner's vibrations because they had shared long cycles of life alongside humanity, as helpers, healers, and guardians. This wasn't reincarnation in the way we think of human souls returning, but rather a spiritual attunement, a resonance that made animals capable of perceiving aspects of our inner life. So imagine the weight of that idea. Every time your dog watches you in silence, every time they wag their tail when you're down, every time they refuse to leave your side at night, what if they are witnessing your soul's condition in real time? For Cayce, this was not superstition, but part of the great order of creation. When skeptics challenged him, Cayce responded with humility but certainty. He never claimed that animals were human souls in disguise. Instead, he described them as expressions of the same spirit that animates all life. He said dogs in particular are closer to the creative force because their loyalty and love reflect divine qualities. That is why, he insisted, their perception often pierces through what humans try to conceal. During one reading in 1932, a mother asked Cayce why her child's dog would growl at certain visitors but be playful with others. Cayce answered that the dog was not reacting to appearances or manners, but to the unseen vibration of the heart. This startled the family because they had quietly suspected the same. Cayce's explanation gave them a new lens. Their dog was not misbehaving, but responding to the spiritual reality of those entering their home. As the years passed, countless families came to Cayce with the same question in different forms. Why do animals behave as if they know something hidden? His answers were consistent and profound. He explained that dogs, unlike humans, are not bound by the same mental filters and skepticism that we have developed. While we dismiss an intuition, they trust it. While we doubt a presence, they feel it. Cayce insisted that this natural openness allowed animals to remain more in tune with the currents of life that flow beyond physical sight. In Virginia Beach, where his work later became centered, he was often asked about unusual moments when animals reacted to unseen presences. He pointed out that just as humans are surrounded by vibrations of thought, intention, and even spiritual forces, animals live within the same field, only they respond with instinct, not analysis. One of the most striking cases recorded in the ARE archives tells of a dog that refused to leave its owner's side during an illness, long before any doctor made a diagnosis. Cayce, in trance, explained that the dog was not predicting the illness, but sensing the disturbance in the man's spiritual vitality. The family later confirmed the medical condition, but what astonished them most was the accuracy of their pet's instinctive reaction. This reinforced Cayce's teaching. The invisible is always present, and animals are our reminders of that truth. In his view, the loyalty of a dog was more than emotional. It was spiritual solidarity, a silent witness to the battles we carry inside. He even warned that ignoring these signals could mean ignoring important truths about our own state of being. Think about how many times your dog has fixed its gaze on you in silence. That stare is not emptiness. It may be recognition. Cayce described dogs as perceiving the aura of vitality around people. In other words, they see what radiates from us even when we pretend to be fine. And here lies the powerful, almost haunting message. Your dog sees what you hide inside. If you carry grief, fear, or anger, your dog does not need words. They sense it. If you carry peace, gratitude, or joy, they bask in it. This is why in many stories recorded during the 1940s, soldiers' families recalled dogs waiting by the door or howling at the precise time their loved ones fell in battle overseas. Cayce connected these events not to superstition, but to the same vibrational awareness that links all life. But Cayce also offered hope. He explained that just as dogs reveal the shadow within us, they also respond powerfully to our healing and transformation. He said that when a person begins to change inwardly, through prayer, meditation, or conscious forgiveness, the dog becomes calmer, more joyful, and more protective. This was not only poetic, it was documented through readings where families confirmed dramatic changes in their pets as they themselves healed emotionally and spiritually. Cayce taught that this was proof of the interconnectedness of life. When we elevate our own vibration, we lift the beings closest to us. So the presence of your dog is not only a mirror of what is hidden, but also a silent encouragement to live in harmony with your higher self. During the war years, when so many families faced loss and uncertainty, Cayce often emphasized how animals could reveal truths that humans overlooked. In one documented session, he explained that a woman's constant headaches were linked to emotional repression rather than a physical cause. While doctors struggled, her dog consistently pawed at her chest and whined. Cayce said the animal was responding to the blocked energy around her heart center, urging attention to what was hidden within. Once she began to express her grief and release her sorrow, not only did her health improve, but the dog's anxious behavior ceased. This was more than coincidence. To Cayce, it was evidence that our spiritual state radiates outward, and sensitive beings like dogs respond instinctively to those vibrations. Cayce tied this phenomenon to what he called the vital forces, the same subtle energies that connect mind, body, and spirit. He explained that animals perceive shifts in these forces without needing explanation. Their reactions can appear mysterious to us, but for them, it is natural. For instance, he described cases where dogs seemed to sense death approaching, not because of some supernatural foresight, but because they could feel the weakening of the soul's connection to the body. Families recounted how their pets would refuse to leave the bedside of someone nearing transition, as if guarding them through the passage. Cayce reassured these families that the animals were not distressed, but faithfully attuned, providing comfort in the only way they knew, by being fully present. The implication was enormous. If your dog sees what you hide inside, then every encounter is an invitation to honesty. When you pretend to be calm but carry anger, your dog knows. When you put on a smile but are grieving, your dog feels it. And when you embrace forgiveness or gratitude, they absorb that peace. Cayce believed this was part of a divine design, animals as companions to remind us of who we truly are. In Virginia Beach, he told a group of seekers that dogs, through their loyalty, could lead humans back to their own spiritual authenticity. He saw them as living reminders that nothing hidden remains invisible to the deeper currents of life. Modern science may still search for explanations, labeling this behavior as sensitivity to body language, hormones, or pheromones. Yet Cayce urged people not to dismiss the greater truth. These mechanisms are simply the physical expressions of spiritual realities. To him, science and spirituality were not enemies, but parallel languages describing the same mystery. Dogs reveal the overlap. They are the bridge showing us that the soul cannot be concealed forever, not even in the silence of a living room. So next time your dog looks at you with those unblinking eyes, remember Cayce's words. They may not speak, but they perceive. And what they perceive is the truth of your inner life. Cayce also connected this truth to the broader journey of the soul. He explained that dogs, unlike humans, do not carry the same layers of ego, ambition, or self-deception. They live closer to what he described as the pattern of the Creator. This purity allows them to interact directly with the vibrations of life. In one session preserved in the ARE archives, he spoke of a farmer whose dog would whimper and avoid him whenever he returned home drunk and angry. Yet when the man began attending prayer meetings and shifting his heart toward forgiveness, the dog's entire demeanor changed, joyful, playful, loyal once again. For Cayce, this was not simply conditioning but reflection. The animal responded not to behavior alone, but to the spiritual climate of its owner's inner life. This understanding carried profound implications for how Cayce urged people to treat animals. He taught that kindness toward pets was not merely sentimentality, but part of our responsibility as stewards of creation. By caring for them, we acknowledge the role they play in revealing our hidden selves. In the 1940s, when rationing and scarcity tested families, Cayce still encouraged compassion for animals, reminding people that their loyalty was a gift of divine order. He said that by observing our pets, especially dogs, we could learn more about our own souls than from many sermons. Their reactions are not random. They are feedback from the spiritual world that surrounds us. But perhaps the most moving aspect of Cayce's teaching was his reassurance that animals are part of the eternal bond of love. He never claimed they reincarnate as humans, yet he affirmed that the loyalty and connection between a dog and its owner is carried beyond this life. Families grieving the loss of a beloved pet asked Cayce if their bond was lost forever. He answered gently that love, once formed, is never destroyed. Dogs remain companions not only in this world, but also in the greater reality of spirit. This comforted countless hearts, especially those who saw their pets not just as animals, but as members of the family. And here again, the message resonates. Your dog sees what you hide inside, because love itself perceives truth. So what does this mean for us today? Cayce's insight is not just historical curiosity, it is a living challenge. Every time you look into your dog's eyes, you are being asked to face yourself. Are you carrying resentment? They know. Are you living with gratitude? They rejoice. Are you hiding grief? They grieve with you. In this way, our pets become guides, silent teachers of authenticity. And if we listen carefully, if we let their perception humble us, we may discover a deeper path to healing. Because as Cayce revealed, animals are not distractions from the spiritual life, they are reminders of it. Cayce's perspective often challenged the mindset of his era. In the 1930s and 40s, when most people dismissed animal behavior as instinct or coincidence, he elevated it to a spiritual principle. He explained that just as humans radiate unseen energies through thought and emotion, animals respond faithfully to those energies. In one wartime session, a soldier's mother asked why her dog paced the house restlessly every night at the same hour. Cayce said the animal was attuned to the son's struggles overseas, sensing the vibrations of worry and fear that connected mother and child. Weeks later, letters confirmed that the soldier had indeed faced nightly raids during that period. This astonished the family, but Cayce reminded them, it is not magic, it is resonance. The same life force runs through all creation, and animals, unburdened by doubt, respond more purely. The message is simple but confronting. You cannot hide from your dog what you hide from yourself. This is why their presence can feel both comforting and unsettling. Comforting when they sit beside you in silence as if to share your burden. Unsettling when their eyes seem to pierce through your mask, reminding you of the anger, fear, or sadness you try to suppress. Cayce insisted that this was part of the divine design. Animals were not given to humanity merely for labor or companionship, but as mirrors to awaken the soul. Their behavior calls us to integrity. If your dog withdraws, ask not only about their health, but also about your own spirit. If they lean close, consider what comfort they are trying to extend. This insight carries deep responsibility. Cayce urged his followers to live authentically, not just for their own sake, but for the creatures bound to them. He said that dogs especially can suffer when they absorb the negativity of their owners, carrying the weight of what is left unspoken. Conversely, they thrive when love and peace flow freely in the home. Thus, he encouraged prayer and meditation, not only as personal practices, but as ways of harmonizing the entire household, including the animals. In this light, the wag of a tail or the restlessness of a bark is no longer trivial. It is a sacred signpost pointing back to the truth of our inner life. And so, when you ask, "Does my dog really see my soul?" Cayce's answer, in essence, was yes. Not with eyes of judgment, but with perception of presence. They are witnesses to what you carry, teachers in fur, pointing silently toward authenticity. If this has stirred something in you, pause now. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell us in the comments if your dog has ever revealed something hidden about you. I'll heart every comment because your stories matter. Subscribe if you want more of these insights. Together, we can uncover the mysteries Edgar Cayce left for us to explore. To grasp the full weight of Cayce's teaching, we must return to the foundation of his worldview. All life is interconnected, flowing from the same divine source. In this vision, dogs are not simply companions, but fellow travelers in the cosmic web of energy. They act as barometers, signaling the health of our unseen world. Cayce often said that truth will always reveal itself, whether through the body, the mind, or the environment. Dogs, with their instinctive sensitivity, become one of the clearest instruments of that revelation. They show us what we cannot or will not face in ourselves. This was not an abstract claim. It was woven into countless readings, where he told families that their pets were responding to their hidden emotions, their unresolved conflicts, and even their unspoken prayers. Consider what this means for our daily lives. Each time you interact with your dog, you are engaging with a being that perceives your authenticity more clearly than most humans ever could. They do not care about your social masks, your possessions, or your outward success. They respond to your vibration, to the truth of your soul. Cayce believed that if we paid more attention to how our animals behaved around us, we could learn not only about them, but about ourselves. He saw this awareness as a pathway to healing, a chance to bring the hidden into the light. When a dog acts strangely, instead of dismissing it, ask, "What truth about my inner life is being revealed here?" In this way, every moment with your pet becomes an invitation to transformation. The conclusion Cayce left us with is both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it reminds us that nothing inside us is truly hidden. Empowering because it assures us that love and authenticity can shine through more strongly than any mask we wear. Your dog does not see perfection in you, they see truth. And in their gaze, you are invited to step closer to the divine design of your own soul. When you feel their loyalty, it is a reflection of divine loyalty. When you see their joy, it mirrors the joy possible within yourself. And when they sit silently beside you in your pain, it is a reminder that even in the darkest hidden places, you are not alone. Edgar Cayce's voice still echoes. Animals are gifts of the Creator, teachers clothed in simplicity, mirrors of the Spirit. So the next time your dog looks at you, remember, they see beyond your words. They feel the weight of your unspoken grief and the light of your quiet gratitude. They are not just companions, they are spiritual witnesses. This truth, preserved in Cayce's readings, challenges us to live with greater honesty, compassion, and openness. Because in the end, what your dog sees is not a secret to fear, but a call to be real. And maybe, just maybe, that is the deepest reason God placed them at our side.